Good evening. My name is Jim Campanini. I'm the editor of the Sentinel and Enterprise newspaper. And tonight, with our media partner, FATV, Fitchburg Access Television, we are proud to bring to you this debate of candidates for the Worcester and Middlesex State Senate seat. This evening, I want to tell everybody to vote on Tuesday, November 6th. I urge you to do that. First, I would like to introduce our candidates. On my right is Senator Dean Tran, the Republican candidate and incumbent. Behind me is Leominster City Councilor Susan Chalifoux-Zephir, the Democrat challenger. With that, I am going to turn over the start of this debate to our moderator, Cliff Clark, the city editor for the Sentinel and Enterprise. He will give the basic ground rules, and then we will begin this debate. Thank you very much. Good evening.
Good evening, candidates, and welcome. The format is simple. Each candidate will answer the same question, and each will have 90 seconds to answer. Questions will be rotated. A rebuttal, if any, will be limited to 30 seconds. Mr. Campanini will be our timekeeper. Once a candidate has reached their allotted time to answer the question, he will ring the bell he's holding, allowing the candidates 5 seconds to wrap up. I'm going to open this debate with a question to Councilor Chalifoux-Zephir. What is the advantage for the Worcester and Middlesex District to elect a Democrat to the state Senate?
Thank you very much for that question, Cliff, and I also want to thank the Sentinel and Enterprise for organizing this debate and FATV for hosting it. Say it again, I'm sorry.
What is the advantage?
What is the advantage of having a Democrat? Oh, well, it's much less, I think, an advantage in terms of party. I like to think of it in terms of the kind of skills and work experience that I would bring to the state Senate. I mean, obviously, the Senate is controlled by Democratic majority, but that still does not eliminate the need for anybody going to the Senate to work in a bipartisan way across the aisle to get things done. The most important thing in the legislature, the most important thing in the state Senate is really to work with other senators and other legislators to get bills passed, to bring back funding for our schools, for our crumbling roads, to work on healthcare bills so that we can address some of the problems that are facing healthcare institutions today. So I don't really think of it in terms of I am a Democrat. The Democrats are in the majority in the Senate. That will probably provide some opportunities to have leadership positions and be chairs of some very important committees. So in that respect, I certainly would welcome that opportunity. But I do want to say I think it's very, very important to be open-minded and to ensure that when I go to the Senate, I will work in a bipartisan way with everybody in the Senate.
Senator Tran, the same question to you. What is the advantage for the Worcester and Middlesex District to re-elect a Republican to the state Senate?
Thank you, Cliff. And there's a tremendous advantage to re-electing me to the state Senate. And I'll tell you why. I served 4 years on the planning board, 12 years on the city council. I have 23 years of experience in the private sector, managing personnel on 3 continents, and was responsible for hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. In the last 7 months, less than 7 months, I was able to secure 53 projects totaling $29.6 million. And that is because I'm able to work with people. I'm able to communicate and collaborate and get things done. That's the reason why I was endorsed by 3 mayors, the only mayors in our district, an independent, a Republican, and a Democrat. Recently, I was endorsed by 2 city council presidents, an independent and a lifelong Democrat who is from the city of Leominster, as well as I was also endorsed by our former state senator, Bob Antonioni, who was our state senator for 15 years and never, ever has endorsed a Republican. And he endorsed me because he was able to contact his former colleagues in the state Senate, who are my colleagues now, and ask them what the relationship is with me working with them. And he received that information from them, and he endorsed me. So that tells you the kind of impact that I have for this district.
I can see Councilor Chalifoux-Zephir over here chomping at the bit, but we'll get to some of those things in a moment. Next question goes to Senator Tran. Senator Tran, you made a statement at a recent public forum that you've accomplished more for the district in your first 7 months in the legislature than any of your other predecessors. Can you elaborate?
Well, it's very simple. I was able to secure 53 projects totaling $29.6 million. Many of those projects went into the budget, and many of those projects went into the bond bills. Now, bond bills have a lifespan of 5 years. I'm planning to work with my colleagues in the state senate, as well as work with the governor and his administration to get those released. I was referring to some of the politicians that I know that have been in office in my district in the last many decades that I'm aware of, comparing to what they've brought home in terms of projects and funding. That was my reference to that.
Counselor, do you agree with the senator's assessment? If not, what should he have done that he didn't do?
Well, first of all, I think it's really important for people to know that 2% of the $29.6 million that my Republican opponent here is talking about, 2% of that money is actually in the budget. The remainder, 98% of that money, is in bond bills. And that's a very important factor, because I would ask, well, when is that check going to be written? The state's credit rating recently has been downgraded by Moody's and Standard & Poor's. That means it's going to be tougher for the state to borrow money. This is the first time in 30 years that has happened. So I think it's very, very important. My Republican opponent can talk about all he wants about bringing home $29.6 million. 2% of that is actually in the budget. 98% of that is in a bond bill. And I think it's also very important, even with this year's surplus, there were opportunities. Senator Tran didn't go after any money for K through 12 education, in classroom education funding. He didn't go after any money for shovel-ready projects. You look around the district, he didn't go after any transportation projects. So, you know, there are, a few bits and pieces that are actually in the budget, but really, overall, the bulk of that money, the district is not going to see, certainly in the short term, and it might see some in the longer term.
Senator Tran, would you like 30 seconds to rebut?
Absolutely. There's another difference between my opponent and myself. Talking points versus accomplishments. When you talk, she doesn't have absolutely any idea how a bond works, because a bond has a lifespan of 5 years. It's an insult to say that these are not real, because a lot of legislators have been able to do the same thing and been able to bring that money back to the district. Now, if she's telling me that the projects are fake, please go talk to the mayors, the administrators, the town administrators, the board of select chairs, and Fitchburg State University president, Mount Wachusett Community College president. Those projects came from them. Thank you.
Okay, next question goes to the Councilor Chalifoux-Zephir. You've received the endorsement of 3 members of the district's House delegation, while Senator Tran has received the endorsement of the district's 3 mayors, and now we know a former city council president in Leominster. If elected, how do you mend political fences in the region's best interest?
First of all, I've been endorsed by five of the representatives in the local delegation. My Republican opponent has not been endorsed by a single member of the delegation, neither a Republican or Democrat, not one person in the delegation. I have long-standing relationships with people across this district. I have a long-standing 35 plus, maybe going on 40-year relationship with Mayor Dean Tran in Fitchburg. I have a very cordial relationship with Mayor Hawk in Gardner. And I know lots of select men and women across the district. And I believe the people that I've spoken with, Cliff, and the conversations that I've had, I don't believe that there's no need to mend fences, because I've just had great conversations with them across the district. So I don't feel a need to mend fences. I will look forward, when I do go to the Senate, to work with those folks across the district, because I'm in this to really help people across the entire Worcester and Middlesex district, excuse me. So, and I also have Congressman Jim McGovern's endorsement, which is, I think, a very important thing, because transportation projects, significant investments in education, we need our congressperson involved in those things, because federal dollars are very, very important to any big project across the district. So I have Congressman McGovern. I have got the vast majority of the the current delegation, Steve Hay from Fitchburg, Natalie Higgins from Leominster, Harold Naughton from Clinton, Lancaster Sterling, Kate Hogan from Bolton, Jen Benson from Lunenburg. Those legislators, they all endorsed me.
Senator Tran, if elected, how do you mend political fences in the region's best interest?
I don't need any mending because I have an incredible record working with people across the aisle. My opponent endorsements are all partisan. If you look at my endorsements, it's bipartisan from both sides, from both parties. That's how you get things done. It's not about talking points. It's all about accomplishments. I have that record. I have that record on the city council in Fitchburg for 12 years. I have that record in the state senate. And there's no refute about it. I know my opponent, she doesn't get along with her city council colleagues. She doesn't get along with the Leominster mayor. She doesn't get along with the Leominster City Council president. This is her own city. How you expect to go to the state senate, to the state house, and work with people? You can't.
Thank you. That's just absolutely not true. I have worked with, I was chair of a city ordinance review committee and served with 2 Republicans on that committee. We got a lot of very important work done. We passed legislation very, very important about zoning changes and making sure that people in neighborhoods who live in their homes are notified when zoning changes are proposed. I have worked 90% of whatever the mayor in Leominster has proposed, I have supported. We've had our disagreements loudly over public school funding, and I will fight that fight from now until I get to the Senate. So I have very real differences. When I have differences with people, I am going to represent the people who elected me. And I have great working relationships with people in the city council. I think my Republican opponent here is painting a picture that really is non-existent. And I do want to go back because the bulk of the legislative delegation that supports me, those are the people that as senator you have to work with every single day. If you want to get anything done in the Senate, you have to work with colleagues in the House to get that legislation done. You have to coordinate, you have to collaborate, you have to know district-wide what each one of those state representatives are bringing back from their constituents. And as state senator, you have to work collaboratively with those folks. That's why they endorse me, because they don't have that kind of leadership from Senator Tran.
Let's keep going. Let's keep going. This question is for Senator Tran. Senate progressives are hard-pressed to gain approval for the Safe Communities Act. Is this proposal necessary to improve public safety in local communities?
Absolutely not. It's not necessary because we have incredible, well-trained, professional people in our law enforcement agencies, and I have complete faith in them. Our local, our state, and our federal agencies can do the job. Safe communities, what that does, and I voted against that in the state senate, is because it forbids federal agents to come into our city or our state to work collaboratively with our agencies, our local and state agencies. You can't have that. That cannot be done because when there's a situation, an emergency situation that occurs, we want them to come in and work with our local and state personnel. And that Safe Community Act forbids that. And I was against that, and I'm very proud to vote against it. And if it comes up again, I will be proud to vote against it again.
Counselor?
Absolutely, thank you very much. The Safe Communities Act, my understanding of it is that it does not preclude federal immigration officials from coming into a city or town and arresting people who are here illegally. And after talking with police chiefs and law enforcement officials, what they are pushing back against is having a mandate from the federal government that it essentially deputizes them as federal immigration officials. When I talk to local law enforcement, they tell me that they are fighting tooth and nail every single day the drugs that are coming into our communities, the other criminal activity that's coming into our communities. And they have very limited resources. So for them to have to spend time enforcing federal immigration law, it would be a real burden on them. If the federal government wants to turn around and say, hey, here's the funding for you to do this kind of work, I think that's a completely different story. But the money and the funding is not following those kinds of things that the federal immigration officials want local people to do. So law enforcement, the people that I've talked to, they value their relationships with the immigrant community. They rely on those relationships with the immigrant community. They need that trust in order for them to have a pipeline into those communities so they know and they can identify who the bad people are in those communities. And you know, any person that's here, legal or illegal, if they're committing any kind of violent crime, if they're committing any kind of crime, our local police are going to arrest them. there isn't any free pass for anybody who's breaking the law. So, the Safe Communities Act, I'd have to see the details when it comes back to the Senate.
Senator Tran, if you'd like to
The Safe
rebut that.
Community Act does preclude federal agencies to work with our local and state officials.
No, it doesn't.
I can tell you that. I've been endorsed by the New England Police Benevolent Association as well as Massachusetts Coalition of Cops. That is the fact. We do. One of the things that I do not want to happen is not allowing federal agencies to come into our city when there's a situation that we need their help, to not be allowed to work with our local police officers. That's a detriment, and that's a public safety issue for our people.
That's just not true. It does not preclude federal officials from working with local police departments. They can come in, they can work with our local police departments, but they can't mandate the kind of work that our local people are doing. That's the difference. They can certainly work collaboratively, and I would expect every police officer that I know, every police chief that I've talked to, would work with federal immigration people on any and all issues.
Okay, next question. To the counselor. Counselor, you support question 1 that would increase the number of nurses in hospitals and nursing homes. An independent analysis pegged the healthcare system implementation cost to be between $600 million and $900 million. At the same time, you've criticized Health Alliance for eliminating local medical services that the hospital says are necessary for fiscal stability. Wouldn't question 1 lead to more community hospital cutbacks?
I have read a variety of articles on this question. It's a very tough question. I came to my position on question 1 based on my personal experience. Over the last 10 years, I have been in and out of a variety of hospitals. Leominster Hospital, St. Vincent's Hospital, UMass Memorial Healthcare, Brigham and Women's, and Mass General. I've had very sick family members in each of those places. As a patient advocate, I've seen some places where very sick people get very good care because this nursing staffing is appropriate. I've seen other places where additional staff would have been helpful when people are very, very sick. So that's how I came to my decision about that. I have read studies that say both things. The study that you referred to, other people will disagree with that, and they'll do the math and say, look, a nurse costs X amount of dollars per year in salary and benefits. You times that by however many, 3,000 plus. It doesn't come anywhere near the $990 million or whatever that number is. So there is some disagreement among that. And I think recently at a meeting with executives of Health Alliance and some local House people and myself, we had a conversation. And the leader of Health Alliance said, the healthcare system is broken. We all said that there was one thing we all agreed on. The healthcare system is broken. Community hospitals, one of the biggest problems are reimbursement levels, right? So that has to be looked at and fixed. I think if isolating the nursing and the patient care question and pitting that against other fixes and changes that need to be made within healthcare is really the right way to approach it. I think a more comprehensive approach, there needs to be more transparency in the way that hospitals do business. I know the Attorney General recently was talking about having hospitals be required to post a price list. If you want to go to Brigham and Women's and get a hip replacement, or if you want to go to Health Alliance, they're very different. So there's a lot more to the healthcare crisis than just that one question.
Senator Tran, how are you going to vote on question 1?
Well, first of all, the study that you referenced by NHP is very reputable. Second of all, it's going to have a very negative impact on not only community health centers, but also elder care facilities, nursing homes, and schools. People don't realize that this question not only is going to cost the Commonwealth up to $1 billion, but it forces the Commonwealth to immediately increase the number of nurses to almost 4,000 members. Now, this is completely different from California. California had 5 years to do this. Massachusetts, you're forced to immediately bring on those nurses. And where are you going to get those nurses? Community health centers, elder care facilities, nursing home, and schools. We are in trouble, and this question, I've been asked before last week, and I mentioned this, and I said, this should not be legislated at the ballot. I want an opportunity to legislate this in the legislature.
But the legislature didn't take this up, so
which is a mistake.
That's why we have the ballot initiative.
A big mistake.
So the question is, how are you going to vote on question 1?
I will let the people vote on this.
That's not really an answer to the question.
but it's not in our purview.
I mean, wouldn't
It's
you
not in-
like your
it's-
constituents to know how you would
if the
vote
councilor
on
was
question
elected,
one?
or if I was reelected, and we get the opportunity to legislate this, I can guarantee you I would legislate it the right way. But as a city councilor and as a state state senator right now, it's a ballot question. It's not in our purview to work on.
You don't want your constituents to know how you're going to vote on question one.
That's what it
They
sounds like.
don't know how I vote at the ballot on anything. Not even my wife.
Counselor?
I just want to circle back because another thing too, hospital closures. Right now, the Department of Public Health, the only thing that they have when hospitals propose, healthcare agencies propose service closures, they have a public hearing process, and that's the only thing. They have no authority to say, no, you can't close that. It's deemed an essential service, so you can't close it. So I know in part of the conversation around question one, people are saying hospitals are going to close, services are going to close. They already are. They already are. We've seen it locally. We've seen several, you go to Clinton Hospital, Leominster, the Burbank campus. Hospitals and UMass Memorial in Worcester, they close psychiatric beds. So that is already happening. So what I would like to do is really look at healthcare and take a step back and look at healthcare in a comprehensive way in terms of reimbursement levels, in terms of service provided. So it's a bigger question than question one, but I'm happy to share my view on that.
I'm going to follow this up real quick for both candidates. Quick. Question 3 on the ballot, if passed, would repeal the state's transgender rights law. How will you vote on the issue and why? Senator Tran?
Once again, my answer is the same way on all 3 ballot questions. It is up to the people to decide. Question number 3, it's already a law. If the people decide that to maintain it as a law, I will respect that. If the people decide to repeal the law, then that is something that the legislature will have to take up.
Counselor?
I'm voting yes on 3. I really don't think that the accommodations, the protections, I think that transgender people, like any other person or people, should be able to go into public places and feel safe.
It's unfortunate because when I hear a candidate taking position on ballot questions, the only thing that comes to my mind is just that person is really trying to play to some kind of base for votes. Because really, ballot questions are not in our purview to, especially as a state senator, I do not want to persuade anybody either way, because I want that person to be able to do his or her own research, her own homework, collect the data and the facts, and go to the poll, close that curtain, be able to make her or his own decision.
Let's press on. Senator Tran, this question is for you. Complete this statement with your own ideas. In order to create a stable, job-producing, wage-driving economy, North Central Mass businesses need
Me. Because I have 23 years of experience in the private sector. I have managed personnel on 3 continents. And if people say I have lack of sleep, that's because of that experience. I've been responsible for hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. Ask my colleagues on the City Council in Fitchburg. I helped drive the economic development map that they currently working on now. I have been working with the Chamber of Commerce. I helped pass the economic development bill that would help create jobs and attract businesses to this district. I was able to secure $6 million for this district, including $100,000 for North Central Massachusetts Chamber of Commerce to develop the 25-year economic development blueprint for this region. You know how important that is? Because they know that I know how to create jobs, how to bring businesses and commerce to this district. And I'm the only person standing here who knows how to do that.
Counselor, again, complete this statement. In order to create a stable, job-producing, wage-driving economy, North Central Mass businesses need.
They need somebody who knows how to put a plan together and work with people to get it realized. They need somebody who will actually get economic development monies into the budget. They need somebody who understands job creation, and they need somebody who understands that the key to economic development in North Central Massachusetts in the Worcester Middlesex District is by improving education, by expanding opportunities for vocational and technical training, by working with the chambers of commerce. There are many innovative ideas and programs out there that we need to expand, and there are other ones that are piloted elsewhere that we need to bring to North Central Massachusetts. We also need investments in transportation. Transportation really drives economic development. Tim Murray and the Worcester Chamber of Commerce landing the Paw Sox, a big part of why they landed that was because of Union Station. There is rail right there. People can take that train and they can walk to the new ballpark. So businesses need somebody who is going to be serious about improving public transportation, somebody who is serious about working with the universities, working with the chambers of commerce, working with local business people to develop additional programs so that we develop a pipeline of educated, skilled workers that can go right into these businesses. And I do want to go back to one thing that my Republican opponent said about ballot questions. Voters have the constitutional right in Massachusetts to vote on ballot questions. And as an individual, as a person who is very interested in public policy, I read a lot about ballot questions. I make my own decision, and I'm not afraid to share that with anybody because I know why I feel a certain way about those things. And I think, honestly, that's really part of leadership. You know, you understand who you are, where you come from, you understand why you take positions on certain things, and you know, you stand up and say, this is what I'm about, this is why. And I think that's part of really being a leader.
Senator Tran, you have any response?
There's no talking points for me, Cliff. It's all accomplishments, and I'll tell you why. I helped pass $200 million for infrastructure investment for MassWorks, $500,000 for tax credits for local businesses, $4 million for Gardner Main Street revitalization, $1 million for Leominster Workforce Development Center, $500,000 for Fitchburg State University Business Center. Now look at our resumes, completely different resumes. I have the experience, I have the background to do so. As far as I know, my opponent has been listed as an operation manager responsible for payroll for her husband's company. Right? Now, her husband's company was sued for $1.4 million. That's for wage theft. That's stealing money from 556 employees. How can you rely on a person like that for any kind of economic development work?
I'm going to go right there. That is a lie. That is absolutely false. And you actually need to check your facts. I do not work for my husband's company. I used to, and I don't anymore, and was never an operations manager and never in charge of payroll. But you know what? A lot of people, I'm glad you gave me this opportunity because I have been working in this district for over 20 years. For the last 5, I have been executive director of Ginny's Helping Hand, and we have helped people, thousands of people from all over this district. I know what the district needs. I'm not going to talk about my prior experience at WGBH in Boston when I was a coordinating producer and executive there. I have a lot of experience. I have a master's degree in business, so I actually know how to solve problems and have actually solved problems. I don't have talking points. I don't need to read from papers because I understand the issues. So with my experience at Ginny's Helping Hands, as my experience as a real problem solver, that's why people in Worcester Middlesex District, that's why they should vote for me. And what my Republican incumbent opponent just said is categorically false.
Senator Tran.
It's all facts. It's all out there in the public.
It's baloney.
Let's press on. Counselor, is the legislature and the Baker administration doing enough to help stem the opioid crisis, and what more can be done?
I don't think they are, to tell you the truth. I think we need more funding. I think we need more prevention. What I would like to do, what I would like to see, is more investment in very early education for children in middle school, early. We need more investment in beds. We need more programs like the Gamma program that is opening in Fitchburg in the not too distant future like they have up in Gardner. And that has a peer recovery center on the first floor. It has housing on the second floor, housing upstairs for people that are in recovery. It also has job training opportunities. So that's a model that I think if we had more funding would be very, very successful. Another program that I was just reading about is Sheriff Katujian has a medication-assisted program in the facilities that he manages, in the prisons that he manages. And that has had a very high success rate in helping people manage their addictions while they're incarcerated, and then also when they leave prison. And then they follow up. A really important point about Sheriff Katujian's program is that they follow up with caseworkers so that they can follow people. They can help them with housing. They can help them apply for jobs. Housing is critical to a recovering person's success, staying sober. So that's very important. And one other part that I don't think we have talked about, or I've heard anybody talk about, is we really need to be very aware of what this crisis is doing to our first responders. We have EMTs, we have police and firemen who are responding to overdoses and overdose deaths daily. And we need to really understand the impact that is having on all of our first responders and proactively do something so that we don't have a crisis with all of those folks 2, 3, 4 years down the road.
Senator Tran.
It's such an insult to many of the legislators, all of them, to say that we didn't do anything, because many of us didn't go home until after midnight on some of these days when we work on the opioid bill, which was 4742. We passed that working collaboratively with the governor's office to pass it. There were so many good things in that bill. But there are things that we should continue to work on and do better. And one of those things that I found out through my travels around the Commonwealth, especially some of the medical facilities here in my district, is that there is a lack of behavioral health resources available to people. And that is because the reimbursement rate for behavioral health is so low compared to medical reimbursement rate. Medical reimbursement rate right now, they get about $180, whereas behavioral health reimbursement is only $60. So that's why we don't have enough resources. That's why we don't have enough specialized individuals in this field. So we're dealing with the medical side. We're providing a lot of beds. We're providing a lot of funding. But the problem is that once we provide all the medical help, we're letting these individuals go back out into the public without the mental help. And that's what we have to focus on. And I can guarantee you that's my priority when I get back to the state senate. I will work with the state senate, I will work with the legislature and my friend, the governor, to make sure that we bring up that behavioral health reimbursement to be equal with the medical reimbursement to attract more specialized behavioral health, mental health individuals, people who specialize in behavioral health, to get into this field, because this epidemic is not going anywhere until we actually deal with those two components, medical and behavioral health. And that is my priority when I go back to the state senate.
Counselor?
We need to do more. Opioid deaths are down, but overdoses are up. We need to do something. We need to provide more support for our law enforcement people who are actually doing a very good job in trying to stop the flow of drugs into our communities from some hubs. They've identified certain hubs where fentanyl is coming in, where other kinds of things are coming in. The federal government actually just passed something about, or a law about, that will help identify fentanyl that's coming in from outside the country in the mail, because right now there aren't any things in place. So that's a good thing. So there are other things that we can do, but we really need to just be on the ground. We need to provide more treatment for people. We need to provide more case management after the fact.
You want to add anything?
Sure. The opioid bill that we were able to pass, one of the things included in that bill was establishing a Center for Police Training in Crisis. And another thing that I did during my brief time in the state senate, I was able to work with my colleagues to increase the funding from $100,000 to $600,000 for the On-Site Academy, which is a nonprofit place where
it's in Westminster, correct?
Absolutely, it's wonderful. It's one of only 2 facilities of its kind in the whole entire United States, and it provides post-traumatic help to our first responders.
Quick question for both candidates. Yes or no, do you favor safe injection sites?
No.
Absolutely no.
Okay. The next question is for Senator Tran. If you'll give me a moment here, I will find it. The state has approved casino gambling and retail marijuana establishments. Will you be going to either of these, neither of these, and why?
Well, first of all, I'm not in my teens anymore, nor am I in my 20s. If I were, I think I would say yes, but I'm in my early 40s. I have 4 kids. I'm married. I have a great career, a professional life. No, I would not be participating in those 2 venues.
No, I wouldn't either, Cliff. I'm not a gambler. I am too cheap to lose money, and I'm not a recreational marijuana user, so I will not be going to either of those.
Okay, that was quick and easy. This is for the counselor. Lunenburg Public Schools teachers earn an average salary of about $76,000, while Leominster's teachers earn on average $61,000. Should the legislature establish a uniform teacher's salary to wipe out pay disparities across the state?
That is a good question. I think that that's reform that should be considered in the overall education reform that we need to do. A uniform teacher salary. I think that would be real. Until we get the funding right, obviously we can't do anything like that. But teachers, why should one teacher in a community make more money than another? I guess it depends on the population of the kids that they're taking care of. I mean, kids in Fitchburg, kids in Leominster, kids in Gardner, kids in Gateway City classrooms they're a different mix. There are a lot of English language learners. There are a lot of economically disadvantaged kids. So I guess I would say it would be really hard, I think, to establish uniform teacher salaries. I mean, I'm open-minded to that, should that come into the legislature, but just off the top, I think it would be hard to do that.
Senator Tran, same question.
This should be left up to the jurisdiction of the local government. No 2 school districts are the same. No 2 teachers are the same. No 2 local school unions are the same. It's a negotiation part of the union contract on the local level. They should make that decision.
Anything else?
No, I think we need to fix the funding. I think that's why I supported the Fair Share Amendment, and that's coming back to the Senate. We need to make significant investments in education so that the kids in Gardner, Fitchburg, Leominster, other gateway cities aren't getting a lesser education than somebody in Bolton or pick your other city or town. There's so many inequities in the way that public schools are funded that we need to fix that, and that's why I supported the Fair Share Amendment in the fall, and that's why I support it going forward, and look forward to working with other senators in the Senate to get that approved.
We don't have any questions about the Fair Share Amendment, but since you brought it up,
Sure.
Counselor, let's go there.
Sure, let's go
Senator
there. Let's find a real way of generating revenue. Not talking points with the Fair Share Amendment. A real way is strengthening our economy, making sure that we're able to attract companies and businesses to the Commonwealth. Make sure that we create jobs and put people to work. That's how you increase tax revenue, not by increasing taxes. It doesn't work. So you have to find a revenue stream where we can use it to fund our schools. One way is a strong economy. Maybe the second way would be part of the $2 billion industry that's coming to Massachusetts, and that is marijuana. We could use a portion of that money for education because we know that money is coming. Money is not coming from the Fair Share Amendment, no matter how many times my opponent keep on saying that.
Well, that's just not true. The kinds of investments, I mean, I am all about economic development. We do need to grow the economy. There's no question about that. And additional tax revenue, that's going to help support local services like police and fire, like senior housing or senior services, like veteran services. The investments that the Foundation Budget Review Commission said needed to be made in education and transportation, $2 billion. The Fair Share Amendment is going to generate that. It's a tax on incomes over $4 million. That is a dedicated revenue stream, significant, that is significant and substantial enough to make the investments that we need to make. And the reason it's called the Fair Share Amendment is because people typically that make wealthy people or people that earn high incomes, they typically don't pay the 5% tax that you or I would. I mean, they have tax deferrals. They have all kinds of ways of not paying the full tax, income tax. So that's where it got its name. So I don't have a problem asking high wage earners and people making over $1 million to help make investments that are critical into our schools and to our transportation systems. Unlike my Republican opponent, I am on the side of working families while he wants to support millionaires.
Senator Tran, you want to respond to that?
That's very untrue. And let's stay with the theme here. The Fair Share Amendment, it does not exist anymore. It was struck down by the court. The Fair Share Amendment died at the ballot 5 times. If it's coming back to the state legislature, it's coming back as a graduated income tax.
No,
and that's what it's going to be. A graduated income tax is when, you know, several layers of income tax brackets. And that's what we have right now on the federal level, which doesn't work for Massachusetts. Massachusetts, we have one single tax rate, and that's why we've been able to realize $1.2, $1.1 billion in surplus. Do we want to jeopardize that? That's what my opponent wants.
The Fair Share Amendment is not a graduated income tax, and it is absolutely coming back in the Senate. I've spoken with Senator Jason Lewis, who is pursuing that along with the other organizations that were very interested in that. It is not a graduated income tax. It is a flat 4% on incomes over $1 million. And what I would ask my Republican opponent is, where is he going to get the money to make significant investments, the significant investments that we need to provide equity in public school funding, to provide transportation systems that get people to work on time and are affordable. There is a problem in North Central Massachusetts with regional transportation. The commuter rail needs to improve. It's not dependable. MART service, bus service, is not accessible at nights and on weekends. People need to get to school, people need to get to work, people need to get to wherever they need to go, and we need significant investments in order to provide those services. So that's what I am going to do.
I'm going to see if I can get us back on track. Do you want to go, or should I go to the next question?
We need to do things realistically, and that's why my colleague Senator Ann Goby and I, who is a Democrat, work together to increase the funding for the Transit Authority here to $88 million. We did that without raising taxes.
Okay, let's go to the next question. Senator Tran, should state lawmakers vote on their own pay raises? If not, how should their salaries be regulated for increases and decreases?
You know what? I don't believe we should be able to vote for a pay raise without proper data, without transparency. If a proposal comes before me, I need to read the proposal in detail. I can tell you one thing. Had I was part of the state Senate when that pay raise came before the senators, I would have voted against it, because I don't believe the way they passed that was with transparency, with public input, and did it the right way.
Counselor?
I really don't. I think that's a very, very tough thing. I mean, there's an inherent conflict of interest. It's, pretty obvious. And maybe a way to do it would be to index both increases and decreases to the cost of living. I mean, that's the way Social Security benefits are determined. That's the way in Leominster City Council salaries are indexed to the cost of living. So that might be a way that takes into account fluctuations in the economy, as well as it's, kind of independent and third party, and nobody's voting on their own pay raises.
So you both think that there should be an independent or third party that comes up with what might be an increase or a decrease, or should the legislature
usually something like that should be accompanied by an independent study. And let me add, Cliff, that anyone who wants to get into politics, get into the public sector, especially being a legislator, for the money, they shouldn't be. You get into this for serving the people, for working and deliver results for the people. I came from a public sector. I left my employment where I was making. Right now, I'm making a third of what I made in the private sector. My colleagues in the past looked at me and said, "You're crazy, Dean, for doing that." I'm crazy because I like to serve the people. It's not about the title. It's about giving back to the country, to the community that have adopted me as a son. And if people get into politics for the pay raise, for the money, for the salary, they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be in that position.
Anything else, Counselor?
No, I think an independent third-party look at how other legislators' salaries are set might be in order, and that would be an easy, pretty easy research project.
Okay. We'll close that one up. Counselor, by 2035, 1 in 4 Massachusetts residents will be 65 or older. What should the legislature be doing now to address the issues associated with this demographic shift?
Well, we should be fixing our healthcare system, I think, number one. We should also be looking at housing and transportation, because as people age, lots of people want to age in place, so we should be thinking about services to help people age, in their homes, or if we should be providing housing that will be suitable for people as they age. Transportation is another very important issue. We should be my perspective is we should be helping people get to where they need to go. We should be getting cars off the road. So, and then healthcare. Healthcare is a huge expense, and it is not necessarily accessible for everybody. There are monthly premium costs, there are deductibles, there are co-pays. So I know a lot of seniors make decisions around affordability of healthcare. So in looking at a huge demographic group coming to retirement age, I would look at seriously thinking about healthcare, how we're going to transport people, and where people are going to live, and how we can keep people healthy to keep them in their own homes.
Senator Tran.
Boy, when you say 20, 35, and 65 years old, I was doing the math in my head to see if I'm going to be that old by 2035. You were scaring me, Cliff. I can tell you two of the things that are very important to me, and that's something that I would love to work on. Since my travels across the Commonwealth and to all the senior centers in my district, they're very worried about Medicare, and they're very worried about Social Security. And if they're worried about those, just imagine the kind of worry that I would have by the time I'm that age. So I want to make sure that those two issues are solved as soon as possible for them, because I have a tremendous respect for our elders, and we want to be able to provide the assistance that they need before they leave us. And those are the two very, very important issues that have been brought up to me.
Any thoughts on what it could do to the economy if a quarter of the population is 65 or older? What's going to be happening with people who need workers for their companies?
I think there's a real opportunity here, especially with the over 65 population, because what I want to do is expand technical and vocational training. And I think that's a perfect way to have older workers retune, refine their skills so that they can work. Most people that I know, some want to retire, some want to move other places, maybe go to a warmer climate. Some have children that relocate, they want to be with them. But a lot of people that I talk to who are 65 years old, they have no intention of stopping work. So I think it's a real opportunity, and I think that we, up here in North Central Massachusetts, we can become known as, I talk about rebranding the area as, hey, you come up here because we've got the most highly skilled, best workforce that you're going to find. So I would look at that as an opportunity to really train those workers and provide a stable, educated workforce for the businesses that are going to locate here.
Let's keep it short, Senator.
Right. There are more people withdrawing from these two programs than there are people contributing to them. And one of the things that we need to do is to increase the workforce, create more jobs, help people work, help them be able to put food on the table and contribute to these two programs. Now, Governor Bacon and his administration have been able to add 250,000 jobs in the Commonwealth. Imagine if the other 49 states follow suit and do the same thing. We wouldn't have this discussion with Medicare and Social Security because we would have more people contributing to these programs than people withdrawing from them. Okay,
Senator Tran, you were one of 3 senators to vote against raising the minimum age to 21 to legally buy tobacco and nicotine products, citing your belief that once a person reaches the age of 18, they're considered an adult, can vote, join the military, and die for their country. Using that logic, would you argue for lowering the age to purchase alcohol and now legal marijuana to 18?
So I voted against that in the state Senate, and if the same exact data come before me again, right at this minute, I would vote against it again, because I thought the data did not support what they wanted to do. And for me, I thought if a person is able to enroll or enlist in the military, sacrifice his own life, be able to vote, and go defend our country, who am I to say that you don't have the right to smoke a cigarette? I understand the health reasons behind it. I understand the ramifications of nicotine having on individuals, but I didn't like the data. Now, to answer the question, alcohol, I can't make that decision unless I have the data in front of me. No legislator should cast a vote unless he or she understands or have the data in front of him or her and understand what the data is all about.
Okay. Counselor?
Sure. Thank you very much. Being a state senator, being a legislator, there are various parts of the job. One is you get to develop and support and promote public policy. The second one is you get to weigh in on the budget. You get to propose amendments, you get to represent your district, and you get to make sure that their priorities, the district's priorities, are included in the budget. And then the third part of it is constituent services. You help people in the communities where they live and work with whatever kinds of problems they have. This raising the age from 18 to 21 for tobacco products, is to me, this is very important public policy. This is common sense public health public policy. The rationale, or one of the rationales for increasing the age from 18 to 21, is to keep nicotine out of high schools. If you're 18 years old, you're a senior in high school, you can buy nicotine products and you can share them with your friends in high school. That's the rationale, because the longer people go without smoking, the less likely they are to actually take up smoking. Teenage brains, we know, are continuing to develop. They are much more susceptible to becoming addicted to nicotine. It's a very serious, very addictive substance. So I would have voted to support raising the age. I think, and I would never lower the age on alcohol to 18. When I was back in high school, the legislature did lower the age to 18 in Massachusetts for alcohol consumption. And that lasted, I think, a couple of years, because the increase in accidents and fatalities, the legislature just changed. They said, this is crazy, so they changed it back to 21.
All right, we're going to try to wrap this up.
I hope my opponent understands that this bill has to do with the age group from 18 to 21. And if she's saying that if you're 20.11 months old, you're not an adult, I would disagree with that. I hope she also understands that there are studies out there that show there's a drastic decline on teenage smoking, teenage involvement with nicotine. Now these studies are proven to be factual. So I hope my opponent understands these 2 points that I'm making out.
The question of nicotine and regular cigarette smoking in high school has certainly decreased. However, the new vaping, the new e-cigarettes, that is a huge problem. Teachers, principals, you talk to anybody in public education today, because they're very small, kids sneak them into the bathroom, and they are very dangerous.
All right. Last question before closing statements. And I'd ask both of you to be circumspect. Senator Counselor Chalifoux-Zephir, what is it you most admire or least admire about your opponent?
Very good question. I think what I admire is the strength and the tenacity of his parents to come here as Vietnamese refugees back when you did come over as a young child. I think that is admirable. what I really, I guess, don't admire is his playing fast and loose with the truth. I mean, you heard an allegation here tonight that's ridiculous on its face. You heard him talk about $29.6 million in money that he's brought back to the district. That's just not true. That is just not true. 2% of that money is in the budget. 98% of that money may be in a bond bill. And again, it's a wish list. It's a nice list of these are kinds of things that we would like. But there is no guarantee that that is ever going to happen, and that's a 5-year waiting period that may or may not these things be delivered. So,
Senator Tran.
So the 53 projects that were passed by my colleagues and I in the Senate, they were passed through the conference committee, they were passed through the legislature and signed by the governor. Now my opponent is standing there with all those things happened. She's saying that they're not true. I just can't, it's unfathomable. I mean, all the legislators who have done the same thing that I've done in the past decades, they should be insulted to hear that.
We are running out of time very quickly. There was a coin flip before this debate started, and Councilor Chalifoux-Zephir won it. So, Senator Tran, you will begin with the closing statement. You have 2 minutes.
Sure. Which camera? That camera? First of all, I want to thank Jim, Cliff, the Sentinel and Enterprise, and FATV for hosting this debate. I also want to thank everyone at home for watching and listening. I am your State Senator, Dean Tran. I served 4 years on the Planning Board and 12 years on the City Council. In the State Senate, I helped pass the act to modernize the foundation budget for the 21st century, increase Chapter 70 funding for schools to its highest level ever, and increase funding for special education and per-pupil aid. I understand that our children are our future. I helped pass the Economic Development Bill to attract businesses and create jobs. As part of the bill, I was able to secure $6 million for the district, including $4 million for Gardner Main Street revitalization, $1 million for Leominster Workforce Development Center, and $500,000 for Fitchburg State University Business Center. I also secured $100,000 for North Central Massachusetts Chamber of Commerce to develop a 25-year economic development blueprint for this region. For infrastructure, I helped pass a multi-year Chapter 90 bond bill for paving our streets, secured $250,000 for Route 117 improvements, and successfully legislated a bill to study Route 2 for improvements and expansion. My opponent and I are two completely different people. I know what hard work is. You deserve someone who is honest and hardworking. You deserve someone who listens and delivers results. You deserve transparency. I have made, kept, and delivered every promise, including 53 projects totaling $29.6 million for the district. My opponent wants a title. I want to serve you. Let's continue moving this forward. I'm asking for your vote on Tuesday, November 6th. I'm Senator Dean Tran. Thank you.
Counselor?
thank you very much. A few months back, I got a call from Eladia Romero, who works for Congressman Jim McGovern. I was at home. It was a really nice, quiet Saturday evening, and I had just sat down for dinner. Leslie Borges, the Leominster Police Department's domestic violence outreach coordinator, was at the Motel 6 in Leominster with a young mom and her 9-year-old daughter. They had fled their home, had nowhere to go, and needed emergency shelter. Eladia asked if I could help. I immediately went to meet Leslie, Veronica, and her young daughter. I made arrangements with them to stay at the motel until they could join family out of town. A few days later, Veronica called to thank me for the help when she and her daughter were safe and on their way to a new home. As executive director of Ginny's Helping Hands for the last 5 years, I've helped thousands of people. Many people count on us for assistance. I understand the needs of the district firsthand. I served 12 years on the board of Our Father's House here in Fitchburg, fighting homelessness. I served several years on the Leominster Education Foundation, supporting teachers and classrooms. As a 5-term city councilor, I have fought for better funding for our public schools and have consistently voted in support of people in their homes and in their neighborhoods. I don't just talk about helping people across the region, I do it every day. If you want a state senator who will bring new vocational education opportunities and skills training to attract competitive, good-paying jobs. If you want somebody who is really going to fight for more public school funding, if you want a senator who's going to make sure that we get our fair share of state money to fix our crumbling roads and bridges, if you want a state senator who will lead the fight on issues that are important to you, then you should vote for me. My mother raised, like many of you out there, my mother raised 4 children on her own. I know what it's like to struggle. I want to make sure that everybody here has the same opportunities I had to get a good education, do meaningful work, raise a family, and own a home. I see many exciting opportunities across North Central Massachusetts, and to make them happen, we need a strong advocate and a real leader in the Senate. I'm running for the state Senate to continue the important work that I do today, and I ask for your vote on Tuesday, November 6th. Thank you.
Candidates, again, thank you for participating in this debate tonight. We want to thank FAT for hosting this debate, and make sure you get out and vote on November the 6th. Good evening.